So my background growing up as a kid was a fair bit different to what a lot of guys had. I was from northeast Victoria. I was born in 1990 in a small country town called Corryong, Victoria. My old man was a truck driver and station hand sort of thing, and it ended up escalating into he managed a property called Tomgroggan Station. So by the time I was 7 years old, we moved from Corryong up to Tomgroggan Station, which was actually the home of Jack Riley, the man from Snowy River. So at that stage, most of my life didn't really have anything to do with dirt bikes. It was all horse riding on the cattle station and going to school pretty much. And with where my school was and where we lived, it was probably a good hour away from town. And so school every day, there was no buses that ran there. We didn't have other neighbours around us or other properties, so we were just isolated where we were. Actually didn't even have power there. We ran off a generator, so getting to school was tricky. So parents put out the call to a lot of local residents around the town in Corryong and that to see who would like do a boarding situation, who would pretty much take us kids on. I had it was me and my sister, and I had an older brother. So between us all, we sort of floated around different households and different families, getting us into schools and keeping us in school that whole time, which was different. It was tough, but we didn't know any different, so we rolled with it, and it makes you appreciate some of the finer things in life now, I guess. And then rolling on, obviously weekends we'd go home, we'd get to hang out with our mum and dad, and then most of the time it was just working. Okay, Dad was a fair hard ass, so we worked pretty hard. Me and my mates go out to the farm and work, and then the biggest thing that got me into riding, I guess, I was always on horses my whole life, and then as you grow up, you're at school, people start talking about bikes and that, and then the 2003 bushfires came through Tomgroggan. That was a big one. That was a month of bushfires and hell coming through the property, so we were home for all that. It was over the Christmas time, so we were fighting the fires as they came through. And like I said, we only managed the property. We had the owner was a businessman in Sydney, and we did a fairly good effort of saving the property, along with had some assistance from the fireys and that. But me, my old man, my brother, mum, my sister, we were all there on the farm trying to save the joint, and we did a pretty good job. Pretty much didn't burn any of the farmland. It was all bushland, so that was cool. So the boss sort of rewarded us and asked what we wanted, and me being in the zone of all the kids getting bikes at that time, I was 13, 14 at that time. So I asked for a CR85 Honda, which was a really cool bike, and all I just wanted it, really used it to get cows in pretty much the first year. Played around at grass tracks and local events in Corryong in 2004, going up to 2005. 2005 we started venturing out and had a crack at Victorian MX state titles, where I had to start in C grade, as you do, so that was really cool. So I started out in C grade. My sister was racing as well, and my brother just sort of got to that age where he was moving out of home, getting a job, so he sort of missed the boat there. So yeah, I was straight out there. I was 15, raced the first year, Victorian state titles in C grade. I was only C grade, but it was my first year race, and I ended up winning. I think I won every race in that, possibly from memory. And then won that title, which was really cool. And then it just escalated from there. I only had 1 year in juniors after that, which was tough. Stayed on 85s again. I was only a little kid, so I was able to stay on 85s all the way through juniors, and stepped up to 250s here and there for a couple of the rounds, which was actually my mum's CRF 250. So I played on that. That got me into the racing scene in Victoria, and I did really well even in A grade as a junior. Before I stepped to seniors, I was up in that top three, playing with the likes of a couple of really top names, Hamish Dobbin back then, Josh Keisha, Cade Mosig was rolling around with us. It was really cool. So then stepped up into seniors, started getting old enough to start trying to look after myself. I was still in school. I did year 12, which was tough, still trying to go to school and then still trying to race. My parents weren't ridiculously well off or anything, so we struggled through, but they did everything they could to get me where I was. So as you see most families do, my sister was racing at the time. She was chasing a lot of junior stuff at that stage too. She was chasing, there wasn't too much women backing back then, or women's classes, so until she got to seniors, there wasn't much for her. to see where she was really at with all the girls, but she ended up doing really well in Australian titles further down the track. I think she was like number 3 in Australia there. She had chances to take some titles, but again, the support wasn't massive for women, so it was just weekend racing. So then myself stepping up to Supercross, 2008, started the Super X series that Chad Reed started up. So that was a really cool series. It was something that he brought up. It was in the big stadiums in all the major cities. We're racing around there, chasing that series from Perth to Melbourne to Brisbane. It was a really cool series. So doing that was an eye-opener for me. The first year I was nervous. Again, I didn't really have too much coaching back then. It was really, I only went to Lyndon Heffernan, the off-road academy. He was just taught us the basics, and then from there on it was just sort of wing it and learn yourself. So Supercross was a really tough one to wing it. I was doing nationals at the same time, and I pulled some good results, but not until 2009, where I got a really good ride with Nick Sullivan from Yamaha dealer team that he was running at the time. He was an unreal support to not just me, but a lot of riders. So coming through racing that sort of with that team environment and that support was awesome. And he started coaching me and helping me out with techniques and riding style and calming me down a little bit, because I was just the typical teenager, flat out. So I was 2009, 19. Yeah, we're racing around doing the state titles, doing nationals, pulling some pretty cool results. Had bursts of speed, but it was just inconsistency that was killing me. And then, yeah, did Supercross again, did really cool. I was one of the top privateers out there rolling around, just couldn't quite crack some of those factory riders. But coming in 2010, I stepped up to the 450 class, which was really cool. That was a whole new ball game. It was a damn fast bike, and I threw away the 250s. So chasing that was more of a priority with Supercross for me, because I couldn't really afford to do nationals. I left school, I was out of school obviously. I was just losing that many jobs. Every job I went to, I probably lost 4 or 5 jobs a year just because I needed time off. I wanted to go racing, and this weekend we're going to Queensland, I'm packing up the ute and I'll be back Monday, and you'd get back and you wouldn't have a job because they just couldn't afford to have a worker off that much. So that was a tough one, but I kept chasing it, as you do. Obviously not having the support, I just had an old VE ute, a new VE ute back then. It was really cool. I just travelled around with my bike in the back and the swag in the back, and I just couch surfed all my mates that were around. If I had, back then Kevin Williams was the event promoter for all the nationals and Supercross, so I'd just hang out with all those guys. Like his sons, I was mates with them, and all my mates were racing around. They were travelling in their vans, so I'd just wing it at each round. I wouldn't have any accommodation booked. I'd have my swag in the back for an emergency. I'd just pull up to a motel and jump in with them, and it was cool. Made a cool story, made it fun. Hanging out with mates all the time, to sleep on the couches at motels or in their vans or in the swag underneath my bike at the Parramatta Showgrounds with where the Supercross was, and having the crowd walk past you at night was wicked. So and then racing around. Went to New Zealand. Had the opportunity to go to America in 07, 08, 07. That was again due to the bushfires that came through, and the boss of the property we managed sort of helped us out there a bit, rewarded us for saving his property, shouted us a trip over to Disneyland and all that. So it wasn't really a dirt bike intended trip, but when we got there, sure enough, we bumped into some people and ended up getting a bit of a ride in Oregon and Albany over there. There was a No Fear Moto X tour, which was really cool. That was good fun. I think I ended up, might have won second, something happened there. It was just a wicked fun experience. Then I ended up going to an AMA, Washougal, racing pro amateurs there. Not able to race the pro class due to not having the licence and the points to be able to do that, and just being a blow-in. Pro amateurs was wicked though. There's some pretty fast guys there. The tracks were unbelievable, and I just borrowed a 250F and a 450F. Raced both classes, pro-am in 250s and 450s. I think the 450 one was the one that I actually did better in. I ended up coming away second place with that, which was unexpected, but the track was really suited to me, and it was good fun. It was ruddy, it was technical, and it was pretty hardcore, so it was good. And then, it all sort of came to an end after Supercross in 2010 in Australia. I just had enough of busting my ass, pretty much, just doing everything I could and still not getting support. I had my bike stolen off me before the 2010 Supercross series, about 2 weeks before. Nick Sullivan again stepped up. He'd stepped away from stepped away from supporting the team due to reasons that I now understand. The pressure that a team puts on you and supporting people and trying to do the best for the kids and give them what they need to make their dreams and their goals come true really takes an effect on someone when it doesn't really benefit them a whole lot. It's just trying to help those kids out. So he was trying to help me and several other guys out doing this race team thing, and it nearly cost him, his relationship with his family and whatnot. So, and then again, like I said, that really does come across now why that happens, and it's I let it go too far with a lot of things in my life with the team and the racing and chasing this thing. So but that guy was my rock really. He was the guy that stepped up and helped me no matter what, and he sorted me a bike for that year, but it was just off his own back. Went race and trashed the hell out of this bike and ended up giving back at the end of the year, and the guy was a legend. So then after that, I took it to Josh Hansen in the last race at Brisbane. It was a bit of a wet one, but a few other races I was sticking it up there, and I was just on a bone stock bike. I didn't even have Supercross suspension in it really, so it sucked. And I just had enough by then, chasing it for 5-6 years and not getting that proper full factory support ride because I couldn't bring to the table what a lot of those teams wanted. Now learning what I did need to bring to those teams and what they want to see, I didn't know back then, and obviously now I do know, so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now with the 14. So I packed up, came over to WA, went mining and working in earth moving again over here for a good few years. Chasing that through, just play riding from then really. I didn't do anything too serious. Raced state titles, playing around a little bit here and there, but I never had a proper setup or really focused hard on it. And then 2013 I snapped my knee racing here, just playing around state titles. I got that knee reco done and then recovered, and while I was laying in hospital bed, I had a good idea that I'd try to make a comeback racing again. 2014 that was, moved over to Sydney, got a ride with Yamaha, like a good support ride, just a privateer support ride. And first round, sure enough, snapped my knee again. So that was awesome. So I packed up my bag, came back to WA, and that was my decision to stop racing properly. I stopped chasing that dream altogether. And then I started up 14MX late 2014, and then 2015 started seeing some of the kids that were coming through the ranks here. There was some really top kids, and they, when I was racing nationals over east, we didn't know anyone from WA. We didn't know there was even a place here that raced dirt bikes. We didn't know anything about it. So the kids were totally unrecognised, and there's some serious talent over here that I've seen, and just needed a little bit of support and guidance to help them get over east. And with my contacts that I had over there, I was able to help them out with sponsors and just from supporting one kid, Ben Trednick, because his old man helped fix my bike one day, and watched him ride, and then was just out in the paddock with him mucking around, and the kid was doing some really cool things. So I sort of decided to help him out a little bit and do a little bit of coaching, and then put an application or a letter out on Facebook about anyone who'd be interested in a bit of sponsorship. And then Corbin Weinart reached out, which was really cool. I seen what he'd been doing. He was really fast. He was always that kid that was just nipping at the heels of those top guys. So I brought him in and sort of helped him out a little bit, which was cool. And we stepped up, and obviously over the years they just kept building on those riders. We had Corbin, then Brock was always training with me. Again, I was between work and losing jobs, chasing the coaching thing now, because it escalated really quick, and I believed that I could make it a full-time thing. Which I did, but just my support to those riders, I put everything that I was making out of that 14MX, the funding that I was making out of it, was putting straight back into sponsoring the kids and helping those guys out and getting sponsors and paying for products and stuff like that. So it ended up burning me out pretty damn quick. So I was just going between jobs backwards and forwards. So I never actually was real smart about that, but now, over the years, we've been really successful. I think we've got 8 state titles in the last 5 years. Ridiculous amount of podiums on the state scene. And, sitting back now, you can watch the kids on the podium and the kids out on the track, the 14MX sticker kits and everything getting around everywhere. It's really cool. It's really cool to see that I've had an impact on a lot of kids and been training a lot of kids, as there is a lot of other coaches here that are doing a really good job. It's just, the more coaches, the better over here. It's helping out the kids. So it's really cool to see on the side of the bikes your logo getting out there, and the kids up on the podium at the end of the year, like the top 10, and you see a hell of a lot of your shirts and hats just scattered across the podium. So it's a good feeling. I guess that's why I still do what I do. And then I guess there's always the impacts of racing and the lows and that. The last couple of years have been, they've been rough. Like since 2019, since we had the accident and we lost Rue in that crash, that was tough. Ever since then, I've been struggling to really make that comeback to what we want to do, with coaching and the team. And it hasn't really been a team as such since then. It's just been in limbo, really. Back in 2016, when I started getting more sponsors going for the kids and actually starting up a bit more of the race team side of things, we started out in the first year. We had who did we have? We have Brock, Corbin, and Ben was really the first big year. So Brock Flynn, Corbin Weinart, and Ben Trednick, they were the three guys in 2016 that we actually made formed up a team. We had some really good support from Husqvarna Australia through that because they were based over here. So I reached out to them. And then obviously a lot of my sponsors from when I was racing was really good having them come on board. I reached out to a few of them, told them what I was doing and about my coaching program. So they stepped up and sort of took my word for what it was and helped out these kids as they came through state titles and that. And then we reached some really cool results through that year nationally and in state titles. So it was obviously our first year building. Those riders progressed a hell of a lot, and we did a lot of work with them, and then we were doing schools all across the state. So stepping up from then into 17, we had Corbin, Ben stepped back and started freestyle. So we bought Corbin, had Brock, and then TJ actually stepped up into the team then with her. She sent an application in. So that was really cool to have some top level riders like that. And 17 was probably one of our biggest years as support wise goes. We had good Husqvarna support, all our sponsors were stepping up. And we had a really good professional clean outfit. So those kids were really doing well, and we came away. We won the 125 and 250 state rounds. TJ got second in the state rounds with all the boys. And then Brock was right up there. He was in the top three with those guys as well. So it was just a bit, as you do with injuries and whatnot through the year and struggling through different things. It wasn't the cleanest run, but we brought some really cool results to the table. Obviously, TJ won a national title as well in that year, which was really cool. And then rolling on to 18 is when I had a really cool opportunity. So every rider on our team has to reapply. It was just my thing. It's just how I do it. I want the kids to spruce up their resumes. So Brock reapplied every year. All the guys had to reapply to be on the team, and TJ did. Got a clean professional resume to me, and then I went through that process again, and I could select my riders. I was approached by late in January. A bloke approached me about a kid called Reese Burnett. He just said that he wanted to help him out and support him, and then he knew I had the tools to help with this kid because he wasn't able to go racing that year. They couldn't afford it financially as a family to go racing, and I'd seen the kid racing against Brock in 85s previous years at Manji and whatnot, and he was definitely had that speed there, and he reminded me a hell of a lot of myself. Just he was out there, he was pretty wild, but his natural speed on a bike was ridiculous. We just had to try calm that down a little bit, and the plan was to go 85 and possibly 125 with this kid. And then we had still had TJ on board, who was in the senior ranks, so she was stepping up. She got support from Yamaha, which we sorted that out for her. And then Rue was really where we were trying to get support from, and where we brought this kid on board from. Sort of started falling to bits around about that February, March mark, and we still didn't have bikes for the kid. He was putting in the work. He was showing up to my house nearly every day or every second day, and he was actually training, doing the fitness work with Brock and TJ when she could. So he'd always show up, and even though he had nothing actually in front of him to say he was going racing yet, he was still showing up. So that was really cool. So again, I felt like I had to step up a little bit for the kid. He was putting in the work, so I decided to go out and actually bought him a second-hand 250F. It was a good condition bike, but the kid wasn't to know any different. I actually bought him a 2015 model YZ 250F, which only had one owner. It didn't really have too much thrashing done to it, so I put a new set of plastics onto it and presented him with that one day, made him work for it hard. It was a bit of a surprise because he'd obviously grown up a little bit, so we decided, right, you're going 250F now, which was really cool. So We had him at 250, we still didn't have him 125. I went out and bought a bunky ass 125 after that, but it was too far gone. I think it was an 07. And I was like, that's a bit mean on the kid. But yeah, then his old man, we did some work with Mandurah City and got a deal going for him there. So we actually ended up getting him a brand new 2017 125. So, which I haven't really changed that much, so that was still good. But again, the 250F was very similar, just had a different colour head on it, I believe. But the kid didn't know, he thought he had two 2018 brand new bikes underneath him. We sticked them up, put a pipe on them. That was really it. We had a suspension guy come over and set them up. Then TJ as well had her bike set up. She had really good support where we organised someone to purchase the bikes for her and organised really good deals for her to go racing for the year. So pretty much the whole team and the kids really got this good support base behind them where they could go racing, and took a bit of stress off the families to go racing. So we worked hard that year. We did a lot of training. In 2018, we were just flat out doing a hell of a lot of training with the kids one-on-one. A few schools were going on here and there, but I did a hell of a lot of off-bike training. I took them over east to a strength and conditioning coach over there, which was 100% strength fitness, Ben Greenwood. He was unbelievable in the knowledge that he passed on to those riders, and I think he was a big factor into their success through that year and now as well. So we did a couple of weeks training over there. We've got some bikes sorted, helped out by mates and whatnot. And then we came back. Rue had only been on the bikes pretty much on 125, 250. He'd never ridden them, so it was coming to the first state round. And you know, you had some heavy hitters there. You had Corbin still out there on the field, and then we had Regan Duffy. Of course, we all know who he is. So he wasn't. We were looking at the calendar, and we were racing it as a championship. We weren't racing each round, so we knew. And he was a very smart. He actually started listening. We toned him back. Same with Brock. He was really smart with what he had to do. We knew what we had to achieve and how long the series was. So we got those kids really using their heads a hell of a lot. And TJ was in the class of women, so it was just. She had a pretty clean run for her, really. It wasn't too much of competition in there for her. She did really well. She pulled everything together, and she won the championship fairly solidly that year. But for Rue and Brock, it was pretty hard fought right to the end. But there's some really crazy things happened with Rue's championship. Brock had a reasonably clean run. He just ran his races and did his things on the 85 and pulled that one home pretty mistake-free, really. Just stayed consistent. Didn't win every round, but we just there nipped away, kept that red plate and got that tucked away, which was really cool. And then Rue, obviously, halfway through the year, we pulled the red plates, which was awesome. Had some mechanical issues with the bikes, but we nutted them out, thankfully. We DNF'd a round. It was tough, but you know, it fueled the fire, and the kid pulled out the stops after that. Went out there to prove a point to the people that were trying to shoot him down, and he shut him up in a good way, which was really cool to see. He did it all on his own, off his own bat, showed the true speed that he had, and he was just effortless, like just picture perfect in what he'd done out there to claim that championship at the last round at Coasters. You could see what he went out there to do, and just went out there and just played it as a maths game and nailed it. So that was really cool to watch the kids actually take a step back, and that was one of my best years in racing. Really hadn't really won a state title before that. And then he's gone out and won a championship on his first year, 125, 250s, and then Brock finally put away his big wheel 85 championship. And then was running out there the last few rounds on the 125, pushing up there with Rue. So that was really cool. That was definitely the best year in my whole of my racing when I was racing myself and the kids. Having that happen, like that, I treated that championship much better than any other championship that I've ever won. So that was definitely a super proud moment for me and 14MX getting that done. Then obviously that was the last year in juniors for Rue. Brock was stepping up, so Brock was pretty much the man that we wanted to get up into to take over that position, because we're trying to get all those number one plates coming in. We got 85, 125 and 250. We got all those number one plates that year. Rolling into 2019, it was looking really good for Brock to take over from Rue and take that number one, 125 and 250. And then Rue was stepping to seniors, and then TJ actually ended up shooting off over to Europe. So we just stayed with the two-rider thing. It was the support with what I did the year before with Rue, and that was really tough. So I stepped back a little bit, didn't do three riders, just ran with the two with Brock and Rue again, which was sick. We were more than happy. We were comfortable. We knew our setups. We knew what we had to do. So started out, it was a good year. It started out really good. First year for Roo, seniors, getting comfy. It took him a bit to warm up, and then he started getting confident. And he was on the podium each round. He was just up there every single time, running that second and third pace with, again, Regan and Corbin being those top dogs in that class. And it was just Regan, Corbin, and Roo out there doing their thing. So then, racing. We all know how it is. It's a tough sport. We all know the risks involved. It happened. We had that one big accident. We were all there. We were just watching. It was just like the perfect race, really. He got the whole shot. He was just doing what he had to do. And then it all went south. So that accident really made a big impact on everyone. Obviously, not just myself and the family. It was the whole community. Roo was so close to everyone. So having that happen at the last round was horrible. So trying to get past that and trying to, at the same time, we had all the kids 2 weeks later having to get ready for Australian Junior Motocross Nationals. So a lot of kids, Brock and all the other kids racing in the state, were trying to go race in Australian Junior Motocross Nationals after that had happened. It was definitely really tough, but it kept everyone focused on what they needed to do. Again, I was trying to help out everyone get to that Nationals, as I did every year, helping kids get to those Junior Motocross Nationals, sorting transport, and the kids as they were there was a lot going on. Kept the mind busy, I guess. Kept us focused on what we needed to do, and kept going. And then all those kids had that fire inside them as well. Had someone out there, on their back helping them out the whole time. So it was really cool. Everyone pulled together through that time. Brock went racing. I think winning state titles after that weekend. He still ended up winning the 125s, and the 250 just come up short by a couple of points. And then going to nationals, he came out swinging. Another really cool moment. He fighting for the 125 championship at the very last race of the whole week of racing. So it came down to that last race, and they were in a position, and it was really cool to see two WA kids go 1-2. Brock came away with second. Liam obviously came away with the win, which was, everyone was still so happy and stoked for everyone because of everything that happened. We had a lot of podiums and a lot of kids out there. We're going number one from the whole WA state. So that was definitely such a horrible year. But they were able to swing it round at that end there and still pull results and make him proud, I guess. Everyone was out there to do a job, so it was really cool. Since that, coming into 2020, I wanted to have a good hard crack at it. I lost a lot of things that year. It wasn't just with Roo. There was other mates that had an impact, and we had a really rough run with people that in motocross that had accidents or in the industry. So we lost a few people that year. So coming into 2020, it was me. I just wanted to go full-time coaching again. I set myself up. Everything, the ball was rolling so well. I had a really good business plan in place, and COVID hit. Good old COVID, coronavirus. Come along, shut all the tracks down, put me in a really bad place again. Pretty much had to straight away just jump on a plane and head north and jump back in earth moving gear again, and go back to that, which getting back out of that now, it's too hard with coronavirus going around and COVID. I've just stayed working, and then now I just work flat out, and then on my weekends off and my weeks off, if I ever get a spare chance, I'm pretty much coaching or travelling around doing private clinics and helping out the kids doing that stuff. So it's still something that I do, something that I love to do and help out the kids, but it's sort of spun around a little bit. I've prioritised, I'm getting on now, I'm 30, so started swinging things around a little bit and trying to get my life in order, because motocross, as much as I love it, I hate it so much. How I've gotten where I am now is really cool. Like from the outside it looks really good, but there's time for some adulting to go on, so sort of work's starting to become a priority now. At the same time, having opportunities jump up at me, which I'm taken by the horns with racing and that. I want to give it another good crack of racing. More so, the biggest incentive for me is the 125 National Championship, which I mucked around with. We went over with Roo to Coolum Nationals in 2019 in August. We went racing there and I borrowed a bike and won this 125 Pro National Class Championship thing. So that was just a one-off round. Now there's the opportunity this year to go out and actually win the whole series, or try. I'm not gonna call it yet, but it's definitely something on my list that I want to try and do. But there's a lot of guys stepping up to that class now. It's got a fair bit of exposure. So I've actually gone out and we found Roo's old YZ125 that he won his championships on. So we found that. It's currently still in a bucket in a million pieces, stripped apart. So we're trying to pull that together, and we've got nationals in 5 weeks. So hopefully we get that bike built and we can get over to nationals. And that's the thing that I want to do. I want to run the 3-round nationals that they're held at and try and pull that together. But at the same time, I've got the state titles here in WA where Mandurah City are looking after me a hell of a lot through that. So I'm going to try race that state round series here in the MX1 class in the 450 and see if we can pull it together. See what I can make out of that. It'll be really cool. So, but yeah, priority really is that 125 class over east is what I want to do. I'm just going to get that off the list, park the bikes up, and then call it after that. So hopefully that goes to plan. And then obviously not such a team this year. It's just I'm just supporting guys really. The guys that have been with me the whole time. I've got my little group of kids which are wicked, so I'm just helping them out with whatever I can with my sponsors and deals and whatnot, and just taking them coaching and riding with me. Brock obviously has a really good support ride. He's been with us since the very start pretty much. Brock's been there since 2015 through to now, and he's got that factory Husqvarna ride, which is really cool. So that's why I do what I do, to help build these kids up to get to that level that they need, and show them what's required to get to that. And now he's pulled all that into effect, which is really cool. So he's not so much on the 14 team, which there isn't really one this year. It'll just be us two who'll be doing our thing and chasing that really. So he'll be doing nationals MX3, which would be cool, and I'll be there doing the 125 races at select rounds. But hope to make the rest of them to help him out and keep pulling that together. So other than that, that's sort of the racing side of things and the 14MX things. Moving forward with 14MX, it's still going to be there, weekend stuff. But like I said, priority will be work for me now. I'm not going to throw away any more of the life goals and bucket list things that I need to do, as you do when you get older, and chase that full-time gig coaching. It could well happen with a good business plan in place, but while COVID's around, we're just going to keep working and then do the weekend stuff coaching.